So the Los Angeles Lakers are a 500 team to begin this new year. Now they do have a great stretch in January, a lot of home games, so hopefully they can gain some traction there. But regardless, the Lakers have to get something done. They have to make some type of trade, whatever that is. Now, I trust Rob Pelinka. Rob Pelinka repeatedly seems to be able to turn water into wine. He consistently is patient, which is great for a GM, right? Even when fans and everybody are riled up, like look at last year, right? Everyone make a trade, do this. Here's Rui, here's another minor trade, here's this, and then boom, here's the big haul that revamps the roster and we make the conference finals, right? So I trust and believe that Rob Pelinka will find something of value. There's a lot of rumors going around, right? The big names so far seem to be Zach LaVine and then DeJounte Murray. I'm more of the camp of Zach LaVine over DeJounte Murray. I think either of these guys, look, I'd be happy if they're a Laker. I just think Zach LaVine is a better natural fit, kind of fits more of what we need, right? DeJounte Murray, I'm not saying he's a bad player by any stretch, but there are concerns, right? His struggle with Atlanta is his inability to play off the ball effectively enough, right? Well, you have LeBron James, right? I'm not saying that DeJounte Murray won't ever have the ball in his hands, but there's going to be a lot of times where he is off the basketball, and is he going to be effective in that regard? Not a great shooter outside of the mid-range, deep twos. He this season has been better from three, but still, he's career 34%. And we know how it goes when guys come to the Lakers. Unless your name is Taurean Prince, you usually become or resort back to a bad shooter. Also, he has a history. One of his biggest knocks his whole career has been his inability to finish effectively around the rim. And the Lakers could use that. Zach LaVine, he's good at all those things. 45% catch and shoot, three-point shooter, guy that can go get buckets anywhere, and a guy that can be explosive at the rim, apply rim pressure. But regardless, right, the big names, I could see Rob Pelinka doing like a minor trade, doing something, getting like a minor piece, like as we saw with like the Rui trade last year, right? Came out of left field. It was this minor move. I could see something like that. Maybe it's for a center or something, right? That could be ideal. And then as we get closer to the trade deadline, then maybe we see a Zach LaVine or a Murray or some other big trade, because there's a lot of time between now and the trade deadline. A lot of things could happen. A lot of players could become available. I do believe that this is going to be a heavy, just pieces moving everywhere type of trade deadline. You're already seeing OG Anunoby. He's going to the New York Knicks, right? So that kind of was the first, hey, here we go, trade season, here we come, right? And kind of set the price. So hopefully that's a good sign for the Lakers, because look, OG's price tag was originally like 4 firsts and a quality player or two, and he went for 2 players and a second, which, don't get me wrong, Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, solid players, but it wasn't the haul that many believed the Raptors were looking for. So that could be and bode well for the Lakers going forward. But one of the destinations that the Lakers could look at to potentially make a trade target is the Brooklyn Nets. So there already are reports that the Lakers are interested in Dorian Finney-Smith and Royce O'Neal, right? You could theoretically, not saying that this would happen, but technically if you kind of want to just revamp the roster, you could go get Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, and still go get like a Zach LaVine and say an Andre Drummond, right? You could, if you wanted to, whether it's a 3-team deal or it's separate deals. Granted, you'd have to get rid of like Austin Reeves. You'd have to basically trade D'Lo, Rui, Reeves, and Gabe Vincent. But you'd get 2 legitimate 3-and-D guys. You'd get your backup center, and you'd get your just bucket getter that they could really need. So there is an argument there. But let's just focus on the Brooklyn Nets for a moment, because Brooklyn does have some interesting pieces that I think would make the Lakers better, like significantly better. Again, I still think they need that absolute bucket getter like a Zach LaVine. But if that becomes too pricey, right? Because the Lakers aren't just going to make the deal just to make the deal. It has to be, and it has to make sense. And you're doing Chicago a huge favor, taking on that huge contract. They've been better without him. So there's value in that in and of itself, right? So if the Lakers can't find the big move, I don't hate working out maybe a potential trade with the Nets. Like, look at a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith. He's still 30 years old, right? So he's a guy you could have for the foreseeable future. He's under contract. He's a very reasonable contract for his skill set. He's not a guy that's, breaking the bank too heavily. He's a guy that this season is only making $13.3 million. Right? And then it goes to 14 and then 15 with a player option 2025, 2026, right? And he would only be 32 years old. So you'd have him locked up basically for the timeline that this roster is, and you'd have him on a very reasonable contract and salary. And, if you needed to later on down the line, he is a very tradable player. He's the kind of guy that is ideal for pretty much every team in the league because he can defend multiple positions. He's got 6'7", 6'8" size, right? Play the 2, play the 3. You can even slot him at the 4 in spots if you need him to. But a guy that can defend multiple positions and just knock down the 3 ball, which is something that the Lakers desperately need. Right? They need offense and shooting wherever they can get it. Lakers defensively, Dorian Finney-Smith would help tremendously. Lakers are already 6th in defense. Right? Now, they're 24th, right, in offense, and that's not counting. That was before the Wolves and the Pelicans game, which they scored like 109 and 106 points. So they might even be even worse now. They might be back to like 26th offensively. But going and getting a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith, he's basically an upgraded version of Taurean Prince. Both of these guys are Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith. They're both guys that can hit the 3 at a solid volume. Right? You look at Dorian Finney-Smith, we're just sticking with him right now. He's shooting 43% from 3 this year on 5.5 attempts, right? Like, even if he dropped 5%, he would still be 38% from 3, which would be fantastic, right? 80% from the foul line. He's averaging 5 rebounds, so he'd help in the rebounding department. He's averaging a steal and a block and 1.2 assists. He's averaging 10 points per game. Again, you need guys that can do the dirty work. You need guys that can make the hustle plays. Not everybody has to be a superstar, right? You need guys that can fit in and just play a specific role that the Lakers need. Dorian Finney-Smith really does that. Now, Royce O'Neal, another guy, again, 30 years old, guy you could have for the foreseeable future on a excellent contract, right? Very tradable. Like, you could get both of these guys. Royce O'Neal's only making $9.5 million. Now, you would have to give him a new contract, but you trade for him, you get his bird rights. You're only talking like 22, let's call it 23 million between the two of them combined, right? That's not something that is out of the realm of possibility of doing. Put a package together around like Rui Hachimura, because Rui Hachimura makes a lot of sense for Brooklyn. Brooklyn, hey, you guys have a bunch of like the same style of wings, a bunch of like 6'7", 6'8" wings that are all like 3s, not really 4s. You need that bulky, sizable forward. Well, we need these kind of guys more than anything because you got LeBron playing the 4. You got guys like Wood, right, that could come in and play the 4, right? So we need a legit 3-and-D guy. It's a win-win for both sides. Again, you put a package around that. You'd have to include a couple other things, but point is, like, it wouldn't be that hard, right? Rui gets you basically 2/3 of the way there. Now you're just adding another piece or two, and there you go. Now you can get both of these guys. But Royce O'Neal, again, is a guy that I think would be fantastic slotted, especially if the Lakers' plan really is to go with LeBron at the point, right, in the starting unit and the closing unit. Imagine having a starting 5. Like, again, let's say we don't get Zach LaVine, right? A starting 5 of like LeBron, AD with Taurean Prince, Royce O'Neal, and Dorian Finney-Smith would be remarkable, right? You're talking 3 guys that are shooting 40+% from 3 on solid volume, and all 3 guys can defend basically 1 through 5 in most spots if you had to. Obviously, you don't want them defending like a Jokic or anything like that, but if they had to switch in a sequence, then they'd be okay. But basically, you got switchability everywhere on the court. You're upgraded Cam Reddish and Jared Vanderbilt, right? Because Jared Vanderbilt and Cam Reddish, excellent defensively, elite defensively, right? These guys aren't like Jared Vanderbilt level defensively when Jared Vanderbilt is on and he's got his timing and everything down, but they're not that far off. Like, they're very good defensive guys. So you have them, you have a guy in Taurean Prince, and all 3 guys can shoot 40%. That opens the floor so much for LeBron James and Anthony Davis, right? Now things get so much easier because now there are these offensive threats rather than before where it was like, well, Cam Reddish can't shoot and neither can Jared Vanderbilt. So teams don't even have to worry about them and they just pack the paint. Well, now it's like, okay, well, you got Dorian Finney-Smith who shoots 43%. You have Taurean Prince who's shooting over 40%. And then Royce O'Neal, you look at him, he's shooting 39% on 6.8 attempts per game. He's averaging 7.7 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. Right? So both of these guys are guys that move the ball, find the open man. Both of these guys collectively go give you, 15 to 20 points per game, which again, that's all you need, right? You just need guys that can consistently just go provide offensive shooting and floor spacing. The only problem with Royce O'Neal is free throw shooting, shooting 62.5% from the foul line, but he doesn't even take 1 attempt per game. He's not a guy that really takes any free throws, period. Like if you look at his career, he averages under a free throw a game for his career. He's actually at 0.8, so not even a full free throw because he's pretty much just 3 and D, right? That's basically his entire shtick, right? His field goal attempts, he's averaging 6.8 field goal attempts per game, and as I mentioned, 5.5 of them are 3-point range. So he's basically just solely spot-up 3-point shooter. Not just that, but these two guys, Taurean Prince is having the most efficient year of his career, and it's because he's getting looks that he's never gotten before. I mean, he's getting like wide open looks. Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith both would get the same thing. And then if you really wanted to, like if you wanted to kind of expand this more, right? I don't see like the problem with like Brooklyn, you'd have to do another trade if you pulled this off because you still need like a backup center, a few other things. Right, but I don't think that would be hard to find. Like, can you go get like a Valanciunas or something like that? I think you could make it work, or maybe you just go trade for Andre Drummond, right, to go get that backup center, and you get Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith, and then maybe you look at a guy like a Spencer Dinwiddie, right? Now, I'm not like super high on Spencer Dinwiddie, I think that, but my thing is like you're gonna need another ball handler, you're gonna need another playmaker. If you're going to unload D'Lo at any point, right? Maybe you could get somebody like Spencer Dinwiddie, who's an upgrade defensively, a guy that can make plays and do a couple things, still got good size, right? He's a guy that this season, he's averaging 14 points, 6.5 assists, and 4 rebounds. He's averaging a steal and like half a block a game. Again, this is the point guard. From 3-point range, though, is the concern. He has had seasons, right? He had that season with Dallas where he shot 40% on 6.4 attempts. And then so he had this 3-year stint with Dallas. And then all the way, like basically right before he was traded to Brooklyn, where he shot around like 38 to 40%. Problem is that since he's gone to Brooklyn, he's been terrible shooting the 3-ball. He was 28% in last year's stint. Again, last year he only played 26 games with Brooklyn. But this year, through the 31 games that he has played, he's shooting 32% from 3. So that would be a bit of a concern, right? If you go and get him. But you do need another playmaker, especially if you end up unloading D'Lo at any point. So I have concerns about that. But he's a guy that can defend, can make plays, so he can, make plays that you just be a facilitator, right? Maybe you look at getting like Lonnie Walker back. I know fans really love him. I'm not like super high on Lonnie Walker. I could care less if you go get him. I know many fans would be happy, but I mean, again, like he's having a good year for Brooklyn. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. His problem is inconsistency. There's a reason he's still a vet minimum guy, right? Even after his year he had with the Lakers and stuff, because it's just liability defensively, and then just the offense is kind of game in and game out. But if he's like your 10th guy or whatever, I think you get away with it, especially if he's kind of just like a tack on. Again, I'm not super high on Dinwiddie. I would rather look elsewhere. But Dinwiddie may be available. They gotta, pay him too. He's still 30. He can kind of revamp himself. He was excellent playing with Luka, so him playing alongside LeBron James, right? Maybe that would help improve him, and maybe he could get back to like 40%, which if he can, then that would be fantastic. But more so for me, I would want to focus more. Go get me Dorian Finney-Smith. Go get me Royce O'Neal. Right? Make that happen. Go get a center somehow. And then if you can do the Zach LaVine trade, go do the Zach LaVine trade. If you can't, then, again, if it's too high. Now, look, if I had to choose between Zach LaVine or Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith, I would rather have Zach LaVine. Give me the bucket getter. Give me the guy that can just go, take the pressure off of LeBron and AD game in and game out, right? I'd rather have that. Give me the scorer, right, over than just the guy that can just shoot, right? Because Zach LaVine can shoot too, 45% on catch shoot threes, right? So I would rather have Zach LaVine, but if Zach LaVine or Murray or whomever isn't an option, then I don't think that Dorian Finney-Smith and Royce O'Neal would be a bad default. I think you could make that make sense. I think starting five-wise, you put both of those in the starting five next to Taurean Prince. Now you're comparable with teams like Boston, right? Because what is Boston? They have their guards that are basically 3-and-D, right? And then you have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Porzingis are your offense, right? Well, we would have bigger versions of that, legit 3-and-D guys. You have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, who are your offense, and then you have the shooters around that are making the plays, doing the dirty work, locking down defensively. I think you'd be much better as a team in general, and you'd still have plenty of depth, you still have plenty of pieces, still have Cam Reddish and Jared Vanderbilt off the bench, which would be insane. Still have Christian Wood. He gets to play a bigger role now, maybe find some consistency, kind of get back to the guy that he could be. You just need to find a center, and you're good. You'd still have Reeves, right? You'd still probably have D'Lo after this, so you could go make a D'Lo trade if you wanted to. Also, I wouldn't hate, if the Lakers went, because as I mentioned earlier, you could technically do both, go get Zach LaVine and both these guys, but I also wouldn't hate if the Lakers just, let's say they went and got Zach LaVine and Andre Drummond, and then just got, Royce O'Neal, or just got, Dorian Finney-Smith. Royce O'Neal would probably be more attainable because he's a free agent, so maybe you could talk them into, hey, we'll give you, 2 seconds, and we'll do a Gabe Vincent for Royce O'Neal swap, right? And then we'll give you 2 seconds in the deal also, and then there you go, win-win for both sides, right? Or maybe you work, like I mentioned, you work it out in a 3-team deal because Rui makes a lot of sense for Brooklyn. So maybe Rui goes to Brooklyn. Maybe Chicago sends LaVine, Drummond, and we get Royce O'Neal, and then maybe Spencer or Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe he goes to Chicago or something, right? And you get LaVine, Royce, and Drummond, and boom, there you go. You basically got everything you need, right? So now you can go Zach LaVine, Royce O'Neal, Cam Reddish, or Jared Vanderbilt, probably Jared Vanderbilt, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. And I think that is great. Now you got that 3-point shooter. You got that just lockdown defensive guy. Got Zach LaVine who can light it up. LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you like the idea? Do you not? Are you somewhere in between with it? Again, how do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you like this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these type of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you.